So, I'm a massive Godzilla fan. Fun fact, the second movie I ever picked to go to movie theaters, the first one was Toy Story, the second one was Godzilla 98. I know, we all have our reservations about that film, but that said, I was a massive fan of Godzilla before that film and after. I remember whenever my parents would go out when I was younger, they would take us to the video store to pick up movies to rent to watch on a Saturday or Friday night. And I always picked Godzilla films. Godzilla vs. King Kong, Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Godzilla, Son of Godzilla. Like, all those movies, I watched those growing up. So I'm a massive fan. So when there was a long drought between 2004 and 2014, I was sad, but also I understood, he's not that big of a deal right now. I'm one of his fans, but I get it. And then something great happened. 2014, we got Godzilla, the legendary version of Godzilla. Great film. I enjoyed it. I understand the criticisms of it, that there wasn't enough, monster fighting or whatnot, or that we were sold a battle between Walter White and Godzilla, and Walter White, Bryan Cranston dies a third into the film. I understand all the criticisms. I still enjoyed it. Now that said, in today, we're arguably spoiled because we have Legendary Godzilla, which is like the big Hollywood blockbuster one, the big guy. We have the version that was brought out in 2016 in Shin Godzilla, which is pretty awesome, I must say. And then we have the most recent entry into the Toho Godzilla verse, I guess you could call it, that being Godzilla Minus One. Now, for some reason, there's been a massive divide in the fan base about which Godzilla is better. Which of the big G's? Is it the Legendary? Is it Shin? Is it Minus One? Well, let me break it down. Let me tell you which one is the best. So let's start with the big blockbuster. We have Legendary Godzilla. Again, he came out in 2014. He had another film in 2019, I want to say, Godzilla King of the Monsters. Then he appeared in Godzilla vs. Kong, and now he's appearing next year in Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. So what are the pros and cons? If we're being honest here, they're blockbuster films, meaning that the human characters are not the center of attention. Arguably, the center of attention is the big monster battles. Like, we just want to see them fight, which is fun, I'm not going to lie, but could we use a little more, caring about the characters? Yeah, probably. Also, is it a good thing that he keeps teaming up? His last two outings, his last outing and his next outing are both team-up films with King Kong. Is it possible that Godzilla can't hold his own franchise in the US and he needs the help? Maybe, possibly. Also, and I don't mean to say this and it come off wrong, the Legendary Godzilla might be too big. And here's what I mean. He becomes so big and so colossal that the skill in which that he conducts himself is imaginable. It's unimaginable. You can understand to some degree, worldwide panic or a massive creature attacking, you can perceive it to some degree, but Legendary's Godzilla is arguably too big, possibly, maybe, depending on who you are. Now, Shin Godzilla came as a message post-triple disaster, when there was an earthquake, a tsunami, and then the Fukushima core meltdown that caused a nuclear disaster. A disaster that hasn't been seen since Nagasaki and Hiroshima, those two nukes that were dropped. So Shin Godzilla was built not necessarily as a direct answer to it, but a massive criticism to the Japanese government not aiding, not helping enough, not doing enough, the stiff and rugged bureaucracy. It's a procedural film, which is not a bad thing, not by any stretch. It's also more of a horror version of Godzilla. Shin Godzilla not really emoting very much, with dead eyes, just moving slow enough to where it makes sense, but also really contradicting the human characters when it comes to, he won't make landfall, he makes landfall. We can stop him with these bombs, they don't stop him with those bombs. The US can handle it, they didn't handle it. Leaving to Japanese scientists and their ingenuity to try and defeat this monster. There's no giant mecha robots, there is no bullshit science, there is simply, what do we have at our disposal and how can we beat this guy? And it's entertaining and it's fun. The biggest criticism of Shin Godzilla is the lack of character development for his characters, but that's not by accident, that was by design. Because we don't have time for character development, we have to beat this monster. It makes sense. So Godzilla Minus One, trying to put a recency bias aside, Godzilla Minus One has a much more humanistic story at the core of it. A kamikaze pilot surviving, returning to the homeland, and trying to deal with his survivor's guilt. Also, after he had to deal with a giant T-Rex-sized monster named Gojira, or Godzilla, depending on where you find him. Godzilla Minus One very much paid homage to a lot of the old Godzilla films, with them finding Godzilla on Odo Island, scientists, the manner in which they beat him, also a criticism of the Japanese government and the way it treats life too recklessly, creating tanks that aren't properly armored, kamikaze suicide attacks, creating planes without ejector seats, not caring about life. Godzilla Minus One, at least the big G in that one, is not as big as other interpretations. He's only about, I want to say, 15 to 18 stories tall, depending on the point that you're watching in the film. So not as big, but yet somehow realistically beatable. He also has great effects and a very unique plan to defeat him. Now, I want to criticize Godzilla Minus One, but it's seen almost universal critical acclaim. The one complaint I've been seeing is the fact that it's not English dubbed, which, I guess wait a couple months. I watched it already 3 times with English subtitles and it still holds out pretty damn great. The acting is solid. So, all this said, which is the superior incarnation of Godzilla? Is it Shin Godzilla, Legendary Godzilla, or Godzilla Minus One? The fact is, there's room for all 3. None of them are superior. They're all great in their own way. Again, we have stupid Hollywood blockbuster fun that you just enjoy. Which, by the way, folks, if you're like me, you're probably in your 20s, 30s, maybe even 40s, depending on when you're watching this or who's watching this. The new Legendary Godzilla films are creating a new class of fan. Younger kids that are getting excited at these films. We shouldn't hate them. We should love them. We should enjoy them. They're stupid box office fun, and what's wrong with that? Shin Godzilla, again, a great procedural, something really fun and mature to watch. I don't hold any candle against it. It's great, it's fun. And Godzilla Minus One is a great individual story that tells its own unique one. It's Shin Godzilla and Godzilla Minus One are the only ones to not harken directly back to the original. They have their own original story from beginning to end. Props to them in that capacity. The fact is that there shouldn't be this divide. We should enjoy everything that we have. We're also getting the Monarch TV series, which is pretty good. I've been enjoying it. We're living in a renaissance of this creature of the big G, and we should enjoy it while we can, because we don't know how long this is going to last. Personally, I'm just happy we have so many incarnations to choose from, and I'll continue to watch them as we go along. And I hope you do too. Sorry, this one's a bit misleading. I know I titled it as which is the best Godzilla, but frankly, they're all great, and I hope you don't mind that. That said, what are your opinions on the big G? Go and let me know down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. And yeah, we'll catch y'all later. We'll see everybody.